Have you ever walked behind a light that never gets closer, no matter how fast you follow it? And have you ever noticed when the forest goes quiet, it's never really quiet? It was supposed to be a simple weekend hike. Nothing dramatic, nothing cursed, just trees, fog, cold air, and two young people pretending they weren't scared of the dark. Lily thought West Virginia would feel peaceful. Tall trees, soft wind, that kind of silence that only exists far away from cities and Wi-Fi. Tom said it would be romantic. He packed snacks, a cheap flashlight, and absolute confidence, which to be fair, fades fastest in the dark. They reached Deadwood Trail just before sunset. The sign at the entrance was half rotten, the letters barely visible. Deadwood mining route closed since 1947. Tom laughed. See? Romantic. Lily didn't laugh. This forest had weight to it. The air felt thick, like the woods were breathing back at them. They started walking anyway. At first it was normal, crunching leaves, distant birds, soft jokes. Tom teasing Lily for jumping at shadows. Lily teasing Tom for being brave only in daylight. Then the fog rolled in. Not fast, not dramatic, just quietly, like something settling into the trees. Their phone signal dropped. 1 bar, then none. Lily checked the time. 6:41 p.m. We should head back soon, she said. Tom nodded. Yeah, after this bend, that's when they saw the light. Far down the trail, a small warm flicker, yellow-orange, steady, a lantern. Tom squinted. Guess someone's camping. Lily watched it closely. It didn't sway, didn't bounce, didn't move like someone walking. It just hovered. They walked toward it, and somehow it stayed the same distance away. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The trees grew closer together, the trail narrower, the fog thicker. The lantern never got closer. Tom slowed down. It should be right here by now. Lily swallowed. Tom, it's moving with us. They stopped. The lantern stopped. They took a step back. The lantern moved back. Tom laughed nervously. Okay, that's a fun trick. Lily didn't answer. That was when she noticed something worse. The light wasn't in front of them anymore. It was behind them. They both turned slowly. There it was, hanging in the air between the trees. Much closer now. Close enough to see a figure holding it. Tall, still, wrapped in something dark and heavy. No footsteps, no breathing. Just the soft metal creak of an old lantern swaying slightly. Tom whispered, "Sir, you okay out there?" The figure didn't move. The fog shifted, and the face became visible, or what was left of it. The skin looked melted, like wax that once had human shape. No eyes, just dark hollow pits. The mouth twisted slightly open, like it had been screaming once, a long time ago, and never stopped. Lily felt her stomach turn cold. The figure raised the lantern higher and spoke, slow, cracked, like fire eating through wood. "You shouldn't have come here." Tom stepped back, hard. "Okay, nope, not funny. We're leaving." They turned. The trail behind them was gone. Not blocked, not collapsed, gone. Just trees, dense, endless, unmoving. Lily tried her phone again. No signal, no GPS, just the blurry glow of the screen reflecting fear on her face. The lantern flickered, and the man took one step forward. No sound, just closer. Tom grabbed Lily's hand. They ran. Branches scraped their arms. Roots tripped their feet. Their breathing became loud in the quiet forest. Behind them, no footsteps. Just the soft clink, clink of a lantern chain dragging through leaves. They ran until their lungs burned. Then they burst into a clearing. An old structure stood there. Broken stone walls, collapsed roof, rusty rails half buried in the ground. An abandoned mine entrance. Tom froze. "Oh, this is bad." The lantern light floated to the edge of the clearing. The figure stopped at the trees. It didn't cross into the open space. It just waited, watching. Tom whispered, "Maybe it can't leave the forest." Lily shook her head. "It didn't need to leave. We walked into it." Something moved inside the mine. Not fast, not aggressive, just a slow drag. Metal on stone. The lantern dimmed, then grew brighter again. The figure raised its head slightly, and for the first time, it smelled like smoke. Burnt wood, old fire. The air grew colder. Tom squeezed Lily's hand. "We're not staying here," he said. They backed away from the mine. The lantern man tilted his head, almost curious. "You were warned." Tom turned suddenly and ran left. Lily followed. They didn't know where left led. They only knew behind was worse. The woods swallowed them again. Branches closed in. Fog erased distance. Tom suddenly stopped. "Lily!" His voice trembled. Ahead of them, another lantern, another figure, then another. 3 lights, 3 shapes, all facing them. Lily felt something break inside her chest. They're everywhere. The original lantern man stepped out from behind them. Now they understood. Deadwood Trail wasn't a path. It was a trap, and the lights weren't guiding lost hikers. They were hurting them. Tom whispered, "If we split." The closest lantern man took one step, and the ground beneath Tom dropped. He fell into darkness. The scream was instant, sharp, panicked, then dragged away by something heavy and metallic. Lily only heard one last thing from Tom's phone, his scream stretching, and the sound of chains tightening. Her screen went black. The lantern lights slowly turned toward her, and the forest went silent again. Lily ran without knowing where the ground went under her feet, only that the forest kept rearranging itself in slow-breathing motions, trees sliding closer when she slowed and giving just enough space when she sprinted, the lantern lights drifting behind her like tired stars that refused to fall. And somewhere in the distance, Tom's last sound still echoed in her ears like a recording that wouldn't stop replaying. She could feel the phone in her hand vibrating even though it was dead. A phantom buzz, the kind your brain makes when it's desperate for something familiar. She tripped on a root and rolled into wet leaves, and for one foolish human second, she laughed under her breath because it felt like the dumbest possible way to die. Taken out by a tree root after surviving actual ghost miners, she scrambled back up and kept moving until her lungs burned. And that was when the forest thinned just enough for her to see the outline of a building through the fog, a low, wide structure with shattered windows and a crooked roof sagging like a tired back. And above the door, barely visible, a rusted sign that read, Deadwood Asylum. The word asylum hanging there with the casual cruelty of history, like it had been waiting all night just for her. She didn't want to go inside, but her body was shaking too hard to argue, and the lantern lights were drifting closer again, slow and patient. So she pushed the door and it opened with a soft, damp sound like a breath being let out after decades of holding it. Inside it smelled like mold, dust, old metal, and something faintly sweet that didn't belong to any of those things. Her phone light swept across peeling walls, broken wheelchairs, scattered papers that crumbled when the beam touched them. Patient charts turned to gray snow, and she whispered Tom's name once, quietly, like saying it too loudly might wake something up. The door behind her closed on its own with a slow, careful click, and she told herself not to panic, because panic wastes oxygen, and oxygen was currently very valuable. She moved deeper into the building, her shoes squeaking softly on wet tile, and the deeper she went, the more the silence grew structured, like it had furniture inside it, like it was arranged on purpose. She found a nurse's station overturned, and behind it a narrow hallway that led to a room where the walls were scorched black in long hand-shaped streaks, the burns running upward as if someone had tried to climb fire itself. And suddenly the smell from outside made sense. Smoke didn't come from the woods. It lived in these walls. It soaked into the brick and waited. She backed away slowly, and that was when she heard it. Not footsteps, but the soft scrape of something heavy being shifted. Metal on tile, patient and unhurried, and a voice drifted through the hall behind her in a cracked whisper that sounded like it had traveled through fire to reach her. "You shouldn't have followed the lights." And she ran again, deeper into the asylum because the exit felt farther away now than the unknown. Her breathing loud in her ears, her heartbeat stumbling. She burst into a room that had once been a common area, with long benches bolted to the floor and tall barred windows that looked out into nothing but fog. And in the middle of that room sat an old tape recorder, the small portable kind, the kind you'd expect to find in a therapist's office in the 1940s. And without touching it, she heard it click on, the tape whirring to life with a dry mechanical sigh. A man's voice filled the room, calm, professional, tired, patient. L17 reports. Recurring visions of lantern light in the woods. Claims the lights belonged to men who burned in the lower shafts during the collapse. Patient exhibits survivor's guilt and auditory hallucinations. Treatment will continue. The tape cut out, rewound on its own, and played again with a different voice, this one younger and shaking. They follow you if you look at them too long. They don't like to be seen, but they hate to be ignored. The tape stopped. Lily stood frozen as the weight of it settled on her chest. This entire place wasn't just nearby the mine. It was built to catch what the mine broke, and the forest outside wasn't hunting randomly. It was finishing old routines. She backed toward the window, and that was when a lantern light rose slowly from below the sill, as if someone were standing right outside the building. Looking in with quiet interest, she saw the melted outline of a face just for a second through the glass, and she pushed a bench into the window on instinct. The crack as the glass shattered sounded too loud, and for a heartbeat, the woods outside were visible without distortion. The trail, the fog, the drifting lights, and far away near the tree line, she saw something that made her stomach hollow. A dark shape being dragged along the ground by a chain, something wearing Tom's jacket. She didn't scream because her body forgot how. Instead, she climbed through the broken window and dropped into wet grass on the other side, rolling hard and tearing her jeans. She ran again toward the only direction that felt different. Downhill, the lantern lights didn't chase her this time. They simply repositioned, appearing ahead of her again like lazy landmines made of light. Guiding without touching, the woods thinned suddenly into a narrow road, cracked asphalt swallowed by weeds. An old highway service route that shouldn't have existed on any map, and parked crooked at the side of it was an abandoned motel, 2 stories, dead neon sign, flickering faintly, as if it still thought tonight was busy. Lily stumbled onto the road and nearly laughed again, because the world had a strange sense of humor about safety. A motel in the middle of nowhere after running from ghost miners felt like a punchline. She reached the front office. The door unlocked on the first try, which somehow felt worse than if it had been sealed. Inside smelled like dust and old cigarettes and standing water, a survival starter pack for absolutely nobody. She locked the door behind her with trembling hands and leaned against it, sliding down to the floor as the weight of the last hour finally arrived all at once. She cried without sound because even grief felt too loud for this place. And when she finally looked down at her phone again, the screen was powered on. Not with signal, not with time, just one notification playing on loop. No sender, no preview, just the same message repeating over and over. One new voice message, one new voice message, one new voice message. And she knew without opening it that if she listened, she would hear Tom, but not the version of him she loved, the version the forest kept. And outside along the road, the lantern lights began to gather again. Not rushing, not forcing, just waiting like they always had. Patient the way only something old can be. Inside the motel, Lily barely dared to breathe because even the air sounded like it might be listening. The walls felt thin in a way that had nothing to do with construction and everything to do with memory. Like too much had happened here for silence to stay neutral. She slid the deadbolt into place, even though a quiet part of her knew locks were more for humans than whatever followed lanterns. She stood in the dark lobby with only her phone's dim glow painting pale shapes on the water-stained carpet, and the outdated brochures that promised cable TV and fresh coffee like those things ever saved anyone. She waited for the sound of glass breaking or metal dragging closer, but outside, the world stayed quiet in that careful way that feels staged, like the pause before a sentence finishes itself. And when she finally let her breath out, it came with a soft, shaky laugh because part of her still couldn't believe the night had escalated from a cute hike to ghost miners and musical tape recorders in less than 2 hours. She told herself that if she survived this, she was switching to beach vacations and overpacked suitcases and boring safety forever. She checked the office desk for anything useful and found a dusty landline phone with the cord ripped out, a set of keys labeled in fading marker with room numbers that meant nothing now, and beneath the counter, a thin ledger whose pages stuck together with moisture and time. She flipped through it slowly, expecting nothing and somehow finding too much. Names written in different hands across different decades with no checkout dates beside them. Just arrivals that never ended. She felt the weight of that settle between her shoulders as she backed away from the desk and up the stairs, where each step sighed under her like it was tired of holding people. The second-floor hallway stretched long and crooked, with doors standing slightly open like it was mid-conversation and got interrupted years ago. She chose a room at random because choice felt irrelevant at this point and slipped inside. The room smelled like old rain trapped in fabric, and the bed was collapsed into itself like it had given up waiting for someone to wake up on it. She sat down anyway with her back against the wall and her knees hugged to her chest, and finally looked at her phone again because avoiding Tom's last message was starting to feel worse than hearing it. She stared at the screen for a long, quiet minute and then pressed play. At first there was only static, and for one hopeful second, she thought maybe it was nothing. But then his voice came through, distant and distorted. Not screaming now, just breathing fast like he was trying to stay calm for her, even from wherever he was. "Lily, listen, I don't think they kill you like you think they do. I think they turn you into part of the road. I think that's what the chains are for. They're not dragging me, they're anchoring me. I can't move my legs, and the light is everywhere. And I can see his face up close now. It's not angry, it's just tired." And he keeps saying the same thing over and over, like he's reminding himself, "Not me," he keeps saying, bring them back, and then the message cut off in a long, soft, digital sigh. Lily pressed her fist into her mouth to keep from making any sound because the walls felt like they might hear grief too. The understanding settled into her slowly and horribly that this wasn't random, that the forest didn't hunt out of hunger or rage but out of habit. People went missing here because something needed replacement, needed motion where it had lost its own. She remembered the tape in the asylum talking about survivor's guilt and lantern visions, and realized with cold clarity that the patients didn't imagine the lights. They were being invited to carry them. She stood up slowly as if standing too fast might alert the building to her decision, and crossed it to the window where the neon motel sign flickered like a nervous pulse outside. Down on the road, the lanterns were gathering again in small, patient clusters, not rushing toward the motel, but forming a loose circle around it, like the world's slowest trap. And for the first time, Lily noticed something else in the glow between those lights. The dark shapes connected to them didn't float quite the same way. They moved stiffly like they were learning how to walk again, one remembered step at a time. She whispered Tom's name once, not as a call, but as a promise, as she realized what the forest really wanted from her next. It didn't just want a body to replace his, it wanted a choice to complete the pattern. Lily moved through the motel room with the quiet focus of someone who has accepted that fear will be present no matter what she does. So she might as well move anyway. She grabbed the heaviest thing she could find, which turned out to be a cracked ceramic lamp that felt useless but comforting in its weight. Outside, the lantern lights drifted closer in their slow, organized patience, and she could almost feel the forest adjusting its breathing to match her own. She opened the door and stepped back into the hallway where the air felt colder than it had a moment ago, as if the building itself had noticed her decision. She walked toward the stairs, and every step echoed just a little too long. The kind of echo that suggests there's more space behind the sound than there should be. Halfway down the stairs, she felt it again. The smell of smoke, not fresh, not active, but preserved like a memory folded into the air. And she suddenly understood that the lantern man wasn't just outside waiting. He was already everywhere this place had burned once in its own way and never fully cooled. She reached the lobby and the front door creaked open under her hand like it had been expecting her grip. The road outside looked flatter, now longer. The fog pulled thin and low across the asphalt like something trying to hide its face. The lanterns spaced themselves evenly as she stepped onto the pavement, forming a corridor of light that pointed straight back toward the woods. And for a strange empty second, she almost appreciated the symmetry. She walked because not walking felt worse than whatever waited at the end. The lights drifted with her pace, never rushing, never lagging, just guiding. The longer she followed them, the quieter the world became, until even the night insects seemed to have backed away from their own sounds. The trees rose up around her again, thicker than before, and the trail reformed under her feet as if it had never disappeared at all. She saw the mine entrance ahead, a low, dark mouth set into the earth, and standing just before it was the lantern man himself, holding the light steady, at chest height like an offering that had been refused too long. Up close, he looked less like a monster, and more like a person who had been left in the wrong place for a very long time. The melted skin pulled tight in unnatural shapes, but the posture beneath it was unmistakably human, heavy with exhaustion. When he spoke, his voice was quieter than she expected. "Almost careful you came back," he said, and she answered before she had time to think. "I didn't leave the first time you took him?" The lantern swayed slightly, and for a moment the face seemed to relax into something like regret. "The others don't know how to stop," he said. "They only know how to replace." Lily felt the truth of that settle into her bones, and she lifted the lamp in her hand like it might matter. "I'm not here to replace him," she said. "I'm here to take him back." The lantern man regarded her in silence and then slowly shook his head. "Once no one goes back once the chain touches the ground." She stepped closer and felt the heat that didn't burn, that strange stored warmth of old fire and old labor. "Then let me take his place," she said softly, surprising herself with how steady it sounded. "Because somebody has to walk out of here alive." The lantern dipped lower, and the lights behind her wavered, as if the forest itself had leaned in. "The miners remember the cave-in," the lantern man whispered. "They remember the dark and the weight and the sound of being forgotten." Lily nodded and felt tears slide down her face without disturbing her voice. "Then remember something else," she said. "Remember that somebody came back for someone they loved." For the first time, the face tilted upward just a little, as if the idea itself had weight, and around them the woods creaked and shifted in uneasy disagreement. The chains at the mouth of the mine rattled and dragged forward, revealing a dark shape at the end of them, a silhouette that Lily knew without seeing clearly. Tom's form moved stiffly at the edge of the light, and when he looked up, his eyes were wrong, not empty but deeply tired, as if he had been awake for years instead of minutes. Lily's chest tightened and she took one step forward and then another until the heat and the cold met on her skin, and the lantern man raised his light high above them all and spoke the old words that sealed the pattern. "Bring them back," he said, and Lily understood then with terrible clarity what the rule had always been: a light could leave the woods only if another took its place. She reached out toward Tom, and the chains pulled tight between them, as if the forest itself were deciding whose weight they would remember next. The chains trembled between Lily and Tom like the last nerve of the forest, deciding which memory to keep. And in that thin, quiet space, she leaned forward until her forehead touched his and whispered, "I'm sorry," like it was a small, ordinary thing instead of a goodbye. And Tom's tired eyes flickered with understanding that arrived a second too late to save either of them. And the lantern man lifted the light higher, and the heat rushed outward in a slow, rolling wave that felt like standing too close to a long-dead fire that suddenly remembered how to burn. And the chain slid free from Tom's ankles with a dry, metallic sigh and wrapped around Lily instead. Not tight, not cruel, just certain. And the forest exhaled as if a long argument had finally ended. And Tom collapsed forward into the dirt, coughing and crying, and alive in the simplest, brutal meaning of the word, while Lily was drawn backward, step by quiet step, toward the mine entrance, the lantern lights around them dimming one by one, as if satisfied with their accounting. And just before the dark took her completely, she looked once more at Tom and smiled the way people smile when they are trying to make something smaller than it really is. And then the black swallowed her gently, like a door closing without anger, and the woods went still again. And sometime later, when the fog thinned and the morning came, the search teams found Tom wandering on the highway, barefoot and shaking, and unable to explain anything except that a girl had walked into a light so he could walk out into the day. And the reports called it exposure and shock and lucky survival, because reports always like neat words more than haunted ones. And Deadwood Trail was quietly fenced off again, and the motel collapsed a winter later, and the asylum burned for real this time, reducing old memories to honest ash, and people stopped going missing for a while, which the town took as closure, because towns also prefer neat endings, even when they don't deserve them. But years later, hikers began reporting something new just at the edge of the tree line on cold, foggy nights. A single small lantern light hovering low and steady, never leading anyone forward, only following at a careful distance, like it was waiting to see who would notice, who would choose to look back. And Tom never hikes anymore, but sometimes in quiet rooms, he swears he smells smoke where there is no fire, and hears a chain shift gently across the floor, like someone changing position just out of sight. And so now, as you sit here listening with the lights low and the world quiet, tell me something slowly and honestly. If a soft, warm light appeared behind you right now, not chasing, not calling, just waiting, would you turn around to see who was holding it? Or would you keep walking and pretend you never noticed at all?